Hello, welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about all the things that change when you first go into recovery. Or more specifically, Martin runs through the things it's best not to change in order to stay on track. We have a good-humoured spat over the use of travel mugs indoors, hear about dolphins with substance dependence issues, that's quite difficult to say, the wisdom of tattoos, and celebrate Check Your Batteries Day. Coping with change.
Excellent. Yeah, you've got the recording starting straight away this week.
I remember just as you were beginning to appear on my screen.
Good man. And you haven't had to defer because you're making coffee, which often happens right at the last moment.
I've been drinking less coffee recently, so I've made my earlier coffee last. So I've still got some in it, but it's cold.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why you need a travel mug, son. It keeps it nice and warm much longer.
I don't know. It doesn't feel right drinking out of a travel mug indoors.
Does it? Does it not?
No, I'm not travelling, am I?
You're not travelling. Well, you're travelling to and fro the kitchen. That's enough, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think that's in the spirit of travel mugs. Personally, I think you're stretching credulity to some.
I'm not. No, not at all. I'm just. It's basic common sense, really. Perhaps you lack a bit of that. How about that for a starter?
Well, no, I don't think it's that, because I think drinks taste different depending on the receptacle that you're drinking them from, and I don't think drinking out of travel mugs is not as pleasant an experience as drinking out of a proper mug.
Oh no, well I disagree on that. I mean, I think with tea,
you're a proper mug. Drinking out of a travel mug.
I was going to go on to say something a bit more intellectual about drinking tea out of a china cup rather than another style of cup, but you've trampled on that a little bit, so with abuse. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to tell you what we're talking about in this episode.
All right.
Because remember, this is the next episode looking at some of the basics in recovery.
Yeah.
Really after last week's one on connection.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an old saying in the recovery community that the one thing you need to change is everything. Now, I'm going to argue against that to a certain extent. It would have been easy just to reel off those stuff. I thought I'll look at it from a different angle. And I'm concentrating on that important first year. There's a number of things you really shouldn't alter during the first 12 months. And this not only comes from research, but mainly from my experience and what I've witnessed firsthand.
That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for in this series. A bit of your experience.
Sure. And so I've tailored it mostly to that. And having been in the recovery community now for over 11 years, I've started to build up I suppose a catalogue of errors, if you like.
You're an old hand at the recovery game now, aren't you? One could say you're somewhat addicted to recovery.
It is that has been levelled at me.
Has it?
Well, it's been levelled at by myself, probably, rather than other people's observing it. Because I think people are quite happy that I do get involved as much as I do. But anyway, before we start, do you remember last week we talked about flamingos?
Oh, I remember it well. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've been thinking about little else since.
I'm sure. But I'm staying with the wonderful world of animals this week because I'm actually a David Attenborough sort of figure.
I see you more Johnny Morris.
Yeah. In Animal Magic.
Exactly.
Where he used to do the voices behind the animal. That was fascinating as a kid. I used to love that.
Yeah, I didn't like Animal Magic, actually.
Didn't you? What used to scare you? You thought animals did actually talk, didn't you?
No, I don't know. I don't remember being particularly entertained by it. I can remember, being keen that it should be over and whatever was coming on next would be on, which was probably, I don't know, Screen Test or Crackerjack or something.
Well, I think that's indicative of a person who doesn't use a travel mug indoors, to be honest. There's something wrong with it.
Sensible, you mean?
No, not experimental enough or open-minded enough. Anyway, this little story is quite relevant to our podcast, really, because it seems that dolphins have they've worked out how to gently chew on pufferfish, which then excrete a small amount of nerve toxin, which has a narcotic effect on the dolphin. So I don't want to sort of glamorize taking drugs at this point, but because large amounts of the toxin is dangerous to them. But they've learned how to agitate the pufferfish just enough that it excretes the right amount.
Have you ever, in the midst of your addiction, your active addiction, did you ever find yourself chewing on a
If I'd have known, mate, I probably would have been going at it. Yeah.
There used to be a fishmongers in Headcorn, didn't there?
There used to be.
You could have popped down there. Have a bit of a chew on a bit of an old cod fillet. See, I think it'd have the same effect.
It wouldn't have the same effect, but these dolphins have been filmed also passing the puffer fish about to other dolphins to have a bang on. I mean, what's all that about?
Are they listening to Blodwyn Pig at the same time?
I don't know what they're up to, but it tends to be the younger dolphins that are doing it. The older dolphins,
obviously.
But they apparently hang around near the surface of the water with their noses just sort of breaking it, and they're fascinated by their own reflection.
Really?
So they're sort of hallucinating and feeling high. Yeah.
Wow.
I know, but I'd like to think there aren't sort of dealer dolphins, would you? That wouldn't be good, would it?
What, going around with a whole a kind of haul of pufferfish?
Yeah, or doing county lines across to other oceans or something. You don't want that, do you?
I'm never going to be able to look at a dolphin in the same way again.
Well, we've done dolphins and flamingos, so I'll see what other animals we can squeeze in next week. But I thought it's quite a relevant one.
It is. Well, so you're looking for other animals with a substance abuse habit.
Well, it shows that it's just not limited to us humans, really.
Yeah.
And we all like to change the reality.
Mm.
Anyway,
yeah, they're probably trying to get some sort of a shift in reality, because I expect just swimming around in the sea all day.
Boring, isn't it?
Must be, mustn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to see fish?
Exactly, yeah. There's only so many you want to watch and see. Anyway, subject matter. Should we crack on to that?
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's one of the most difficult things for people when they first become sober. It's the changes that take place. And it's problematic because in order for people to build a strong recovery, they're going to need to go through some quite big changes, especially to the way they think. But as I said, I first want to look at the changes you should avoid during that first year, because they can divert your attention away from recovery. Okay. They can knock recovery off the top of your priority list.
Okay.
And obviously the change I'm going to go through, it's about really putting a brake on things, because people still do these things, but I've just seen them as dangerous. Because you feel like we've talked about this sort of pink fluffy cloud, which you feel surrounds you during that early period, and you think you can take on the world and do everything. And it's just a cautionary word here, really. It's about things you should perhaps defer for a while. So
are you saying then that when that pink fluffy cloud encompasses you, there can be a temptation to change everything and therefore change too much and leave yourself in an exposed position?
You can, and you exactly that. And you'll find yourself fighting against the frustration that you previously had, that you weren't able to function properly, and suddenly get this freedom and think, right, I'm going to take on the world. And I've seen it cause problems and cause lapses. So that's just really wanted to have a look at, really.
Good.
The first one, which is probably one which I've seen trip up more people than anything else, which is starting a new relationship. I know we've talked about it before, but certainly, especially if you're doing it with someone else that's also in recovery.
Which must happen quite frequently, because obviously it's a good place for people to meet, isn't it?
It is. And all of a sudden you meet people that got the same demons as you. You've got this connection already the minute you walk through the door.
And before you know what's happening, you're sucking on pufferfish.
Well, that's it, yeah. The pair of yous. It's not good. So avoiding that in the first year.
Why do you think that? Why do you think there is? Why do you think there is such a kind of attraction to do that? Is it the obvious that, when you've been in active addiction, obviously you can't sustain relationships of any type.
No.
And that when you feel like you're sort of in the foothills of sobriety, you think, oh, great, I can start relationships.
Yeah.
Is that as simple as that?
Well, it is, but I think on top of that, it's the search for validation. Right. Because you felt unloved or are unlovable for so long.
Okay, so that's one of the other reasons why it's dangerous then, isn't it? Because not only will it destabilise you, but it kind of, there's a risk then that you're asking someone else to do the work that you've got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But yes, I mean, I've seen people start relationships with people in recovery, which again, it doubles up the baggage really that you're having to deal with between you. And if one of you lapses, the other one nearly always does also. It's very
I mean, that's a classic conditions for codependency.
It is, which we've also touched upon, haven't we?
Mm.
I mean, in the longer term, it's fine. I've seen relationships work well in the longer if they wait a while. Wait a long time, and I've been to weddings, people that have met in recovery, but it certainly doesn't work in the early parts of it. 12 months is. I've often heard that you should wait 2 years before you start. Do
you think? I mean, I know this is it's difficult to make a sweeping generalisation, but I'm going to ask you to. Do you think generally people in recovery find it easier eventually to get into relationships with other people in recovery because of the fact that they would feel more understood more easily?
Yeah, I do. And I think you haven't got that awkward moment if you're dating someone that hasn't got that issue about telling them about your issue. Because it can be a bit of a deal breaker for some people, obviously. So
you've got that difficulty with telling someone that you have, you can't drink and the reasons you can't drink.
Yeah.
But is it also made more difficult because the likelihood is that person that you're telling is a drinker and will continue to drink? Is that also a factor?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if they can drink socially and don't have an issue with it, that's one of the things in early recovery which annoys you most about the rest of society.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost this jealousy going on. Oh, they can drink properly. They can drink normally. They don't have issues.
Even when you're kind of further into your recovery, I don't know, let's say you're 5 years in or 10 years in or whatever, dating someone who is a drinker, I mean, that might not immediately feel as if it's putting you at risk of relapse, but would it still feel like a bit of a thorn in your side?
Yeah, it is. I think you've got to be really comfortable.
Yeah.
And the other person's got to be really comfortable around that as well. So if I think dating a heavy drinker would be an issue. So I mean, it often happens. And the next point was about getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of a no as well. Trying to avoid that. I mean, it's quite tricky because obviously relationships have become very fractured during your drinking and drug taking period. So that the divorce is we call it sort of the inevitable divorce that's going to happen once when one party is going through the mill with their addiction. But getting a divorce, we know how tricky that is, know how tough that is. Having done it myself, it's emotionally really, really tough. You remember during the first few months of recovery, your decisions are still very much clouded by your addiction. Even though the substance is not feeding it, you're still very active.
So do you think that
you're still thinking like an addict?
So do people tend to? Does it tend to be then, in your experience, the person who is in recovery that might seek the divorce, think, right, that's it, I'm clean break, clean start? Does that happen?
It does happen. It does happen a lot because when people change so dramatically in recovery, and they may well have been struggling with their relationship for so long, and it's been bad, and it may have been one of the causes of their addiction to really take off.
Yeah, because we always say in therapy that if one half of a couple goes into therapy, it puts a lot of strain on a relationship, and the reason for that is that that person is changing more quickly. They're likely to be growing emotionally more quickly than their partner, and that obviously increases the space between them. And what you're talking about here is the same thing, but change and growth that is brought about by sobriety rather than going into therapy.
I am at this point, but that sort of that makes sense what you're saying. It's like, I suppose the overall advice here is don't change your relationship status at this point.
Yeah, if you can avoid it.
If you can avoid it. I mean,
so I think that's the other thing. The other thing with divorce or breaking up a long-term relationship, in my experience, most people massively underestimate the extent to which it's going to affect them.
Yeah,
even if they want the end of that relationship, quite often when it ends, they are hit with emotions that they're not ready for. And obviously, if you're in the early stages of sobriety, you can do without that destabilisation.
I can attest to that from my own personal point of view.
Yeah.
Getting divorced it put my addiction into active overdrive. It really did. Yeah. Although I felt the relationship was breaking down, and I wasn't prepared for the fallout. It's awful, and so it's one of those things that if you can, because when people do change, I've seen relationships then suddenly become really strong because that person has got a supportive partner, which it might have been that they might have been on the point of breaking up, and they're putting the effort in, and things are changing. They're becoming closer again. So, and I think just changing that your relationship status in the early part of recovery is dangerous.
Yeah,
it can lead straight back to a relapse or relapse. The next point I want to move on to was moving house, which we all know is a very stressful thing to do. And again, sometimes that may be forced upon us.
Yeah,
you're in the early stage of recovery. If you can get away with not doing it, don't. Again, clarify what you really want once your mind has become stabilised. When the drink and drugs are out of your system, been out for a long time, and your mind is starting to look at things with a clear reflection.
Yeah, I think that's whenever you experience a big shift, whatever it is, when you go into recovery or a bereavement or something like that. Again, I think it's the same thing. We underestimate the extent to which our brain is not operating in a kind of stable, consistent manner. And actually, I've seen this often when people have come out of relationships and then they've gone into another relationship thinking that they're past the last one.
Yeah.
And then 6 months or 12 months later, they're completely different people. And they realise then actually they were right in the midst of all sorts of emotional angst. But they just, because they weren't in the horrible place they had been before, they felt like, oh, this is how I'm going to stay. But of course, it isn't how you're going to stay. And the same thing's going to happen to you in early recovery, isn't it?
Yeah,
there isn't going to be a stability or a sense of consistency in the way you're feeling for a long time, I wouldn't think.
No, I mean, it's also that point we talked about with relationships in the past where some people really need someone else around to make them feel complete. And we know that's dangerous, isn't it? If you're relying on other people's emotions to make you feel complete as a person, especially if you're a vulnerable addict, it's awful because then you go straight back into that codependency issue we had before. It's that's where I've seen things fail dramatically. Moving house, not so much. But again, if you can avoid it, do so in the early stages.
I think the reason moving house is important, though, the point you're making about moving house is important, is because that our physical foundation, our physical root, i.e. the place we live, is easy to overlook. It's easy to underestimate the importance of that, and it is massive for us.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable about the place you can go back to at the end of the day and shut the door and you think, okay, I'm kind of safe here, whatever vagaries of life are attacking me outside, at least in here I feel safe. And of course, if you move, you have to establish that again. So you've got all of that work to do emotionally at a time when you can ill afford it.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think the next point, which leads on from that to a small extent, really, but is about going on a long foreign holiday. So you're away from that stable environment effectively.
Yeah.
We did holiday stress back in April 2021, as you probably remember. You probably remember you remember the season. It was number 3, episode 20. I'm sure you're all over that.
Right. Always got that right in the front of my mind. That one.
You have. Yeah. But I think we looked at that holiday stress. And again, I have seen people successfully negotiate it fairly early on, as long as they stick close to the groups. And I've known some people that have sought out meetings whilst on holiday. Mm-hmm. We've had people on cruises, and often on cruise ships they will have AA meetings and that sort of thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they call them something else. I can't remember what they call them now, but they have a sort of a coded name so people don't think you'll see you going into an AA meeting.
So it's competitive quoits or something.
No, I can't remember what they call it, but there is some sort of system of giving you the opportunity to go to a meeting whilst whilst on board.
Right.
But they can be tough. They can be tricky, as we went through quite extensively in that episode. Especially if you could imagine an alcoholic going on an all-inclusive holiday.
Oh my God!
How tough that would be.
Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that?
Well, it often comes up that people come into recovery. It's already been booked sometime in advance, and although the sensible thing would be to cancel it.
Yeah.
I think there's pressure from family and children perhaps involved, and they're all looking for it. They're going to go. So it can crop up, and it does crop up. But I know it's dangerous because I've seen a lot of people fail on it as well.
Oh, it's a classic example, isn't it, of the importance of being able to prioritise your own needs at that point. If active addiction is selfish, then those early stages of recovery need to be similarly selfish, don't they?
They do, absolutely right. But I think also these holidays, they can be okay as long, again, if you've got a support network with you, if you know your partner is on board, etc. But I've seen people go on solo holidays, singles holidays, and all of a sudden you're in this place where no one knows you. You've got that anonymity, and anonymity is a great driver towards lapsing because no one will find out. I'll deal with this again, and I'll stop drinking again once I come off the holiday. And I've seen that happen plenty of times.
And of course, drinking in those situations is a great way of reducing the anxiety to enable you to talk to people and make friends.
Yeah.
Right. So far,
very dangerous.
If I'm understanding what you're saying, so far, if I'm early in recovery, and I decide to ask my partner for a divorce because I want to move in with my new partner into their house and then have a long holiday with them, I'm probably not on the right track.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Throw all inclusivity into the holiday as well. That'd be
right, okay.
You'll be coming straight back into meetings when you come back with a long face and a sense of shame.
Or even worse, I might not come back into meetings on the way, and when I come back because I feel so much shame.
Or you'll die. Yeah.
Or I die.
Yeah. That's an extreme, but that's where addiction takes us. Another one that came up on this was having a baby. Now, I haven't come across, this would come up in the research, but I haven't come across that, I must admit. But it makes sense, I suppose, not to have a baby during early recovery. But
probably best not to get a dog either.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no.
Because that's the same. I mean, I'm not saying having a dog is the same as having a baby, but these are examples of things that will turn your life on its head in a way that you haven't anticipated.
Yeah, especially a puppy. Yeah, that's what you're thinking about, really, aren't you? I know how
because they're arseholes.
I know how your puppies have been, and they've driven you to they've virtually driven you to drink, haven't they, with their behaviour?
Yeah, exactly, and that's quite a journey for me to go on. Yeah,
it didn't have a dog on there, but that's a very good point. That is a good point because again, I've seen people do exactly that. And they found that it all seems quite cold. And they've done it almost like sorry, I've been a drunken arsehole for so long. Tell you what we do. We had a little present for your partner and the kids. We get a new dog. And that that causes its own problems. You're absolutely right. If you've already got one, then that's a completely different deal.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about changes here when you're making, or making choices in early recovery that can either help you stay sober or to promote the chance of relapse.
I can understand why people would do it. I mean, not so much the baby. One would hope that would take a bit of planning, although it could obviously be accidental.
Yeah.
I can understand why people would get a dog or a pet because I expect early in recovery, particularly if you aren't in a relationship and you're living alone, it probably is quite a lonely time because you haven't got any way of getting away from your emotions anymore, have you? No. You've got to feel them. So if you feel sad and lonely and regretful and ashamed, actually, having a pet probably feels like a really good idea. But I think the other side of it is that it will destabilize and change your life. Yeah. And your whole kind of premise here, your whole thrust of your argument is don't change things that are creating your foundation.
Exactly.
Because enough other stuff is going to change that you can't do anything about.
That's right, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But you're right. And other things that, again, which can destabilise you is if you quit your job all of a sudden, you think, which again did come up in the research. And I was thinking about this because if it's a major contributor to your addiction, then probably it's not a bad idea to quit that at all. But you find that in groups it's happened quite often where people come and say, well, I'm a functioning alcoholic. They're still holding down their job. at the end of the day, a functioning alcoholic is still an alcoholic.
And you won't be functioning forever, will you?
No, you won't. You will get. You're moving in close to that point where you won't be able to function. But what you find is, if you are going into recovery and you're holding down a job, you may not be enjoying it, but you'll suddenly find that you will start to perform better once you give up that. The functioning alcoholic is you just about manage to get through it, just about manage to sort it out. And in your mind, you're thinking, because you're feeling depressed, and like, well, do you know what? I'm going to go and try and find something else. Don't, if possible, keep that stable at that point. And you can make that decision again once you've got a sober head on you.
I suppose the thing there is that if you, as you say, if your work was a contributory factor to your drinking or your continued drinking, then it might be a good idea to stop it. But you have to think about the other areas of your life it's going to impact.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if quitting your job means you won't have enough money to pay the bills and you're going to be looking for somewhere new to live and all that sort of stuff, then that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, but I've got an opportunity to do this over here, which is going to be less stressful. It's going to help me in some way. Then it might be a good idea. But I think the point here is you've got to think it through. Don't just think about, oh, won't it be great not to have to go to that job? You've got to think about what are the consequences of that, and am I going to be able to tolerate them when I'm dealing with everything else?
You're exactly right. But we do find that people that, again, trying to validate themselves to a certain extent, they're going to recover. They probably may well have been out of work for a while because they can't function with their alcoholism or their drug taking. And they go into recovery and think, right, I'm going to go and get a new job. And the stress that can bring, we all know what a new job's like. We're not really, I think the surveys show that we're not that valuable to our employer until we've been there 6 months.
Yeah.
And there will be all sorts of stresses upon you to perform. There'll be stresses on you to, especially, can you imagine commuting? I mean, commuting to me was a stress. When I went to London, it meant my drinking it doubled in its intensity, really, just dealing with that.
Yeah.
So starting a new job, and I've seen so many people fail on that. Think, I've got to get a new job. I need the money. I'm going to go and get a new job. And they end up getting some money and enabling themselves effectively. and they're straight back down that route again. So starting a new job, again, when things are financially tight, you've got to make changes on that front. There are things that are going to take priority, like your recovery, and it's going to have an impact. But you can recover from that. You can do that. You can redo that. You can sort that out and get yourself a new job once you're in a better position.
Rush
in. They do it all the time.
When you've been physically ill, if you've had the flu or something. I know men, we always say we've had the flu when we've had a cold, but if you've been bedridden with illness, when you start to sort of feel better, you think, actually, I feel much better now. Yeah. And then you go and try and do something and you realise, shit, I don't feel better at all. I'm way, way off my full fitness. I think that's the point you're making there, isn't it? When you're in that space, when you're early in recovery, you are massively underestimating the extent to which you can deal with the things that you might have been able to deal with before you had a drink problem or, the people that you're seeing around you. So wherever possible, if you can tread carefully and just kind of feel your way into what you're capable of, you're much more likely to protect your sobriety.
You're right. I think that's quite a good analogy about how trying to crack on once you feel slightly better after a heavy cold or flu, because I think a lot of us can relate to that. And if you multiply that up 1,000 times, that's what happens if you're trying to try something new when you're just recovering from a long-term addiction issue.
Yeah, and of course the consequence is not too bad if you've been ill, because you just think, I have to go back to bed for a day. But the consequence if you're in recovery is catastrophic, because it might mean that you start drinking again, and that might be the last mistake you make. Yeah,
that's right. And moving on from about starting a new job is starting a new business as well, because a lot of people think, I'm going to crack on. But and again, you
do that.
Yeah, but you seriously, but you do seriously underestimate the effort that's going to take and the long-term issues involved in that. But again, you suddenly see this sense of failure coming over people when they've got this new impetus. They want to go and conquer the world, and then things aren't in place. They're not emotionally ready for that, to deal with the setbacks, because starting up a new business, there's all sorts of knockbacks you're going to have to take, and we're too vulnerable at that stage.
Yeah.
So although it might seem a great idea,
I mean, that's something that's difficult at the best. That's something that's difficult at the best of times, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Let alone when you're in an emotionally vulnerable place.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't do it later on. That's what I'm saying. No. I'm looking at the short-term measures. The first 12 months, that important first year, get that out of the way. Then some of these things can then start to move. You can start to deal with some of these issues.
Yeah.
Which again, looking at work, taking on new major responsibilities at work as well. That can be tough. So if you can avoid that for a little while, again, that can be a bit tricky. If you get offered a promotion, you turn it down. But we know what that can bring. So rather than seek out that next promotion, put that on hold for a little while. Don't seek them just for a while. Do it later on when you are in a better state.
Do you find all these things that you're talking about that people are better off not changing if they can avoid it? Do you find that the majority of people will bring their anticipated or planned changes to group and discuss them?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another real benefit of being in some sort of peer support, isn't it? Because I imagine if someone came in a group and said, I'm feeling good, I've decided I'm going to start a new business, there might be some cautionary words from other
There will be
participants.
It is often people come in, they've already made the decision they're going to go and get a new job.
That's what I mean. I wondered to what extent people canvassed opinion before they made choices.
They often look for validation after the choice has been made.
Right, so that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because then once we made the decision, we're into that headspace where we just want to defend it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think the longer you're in the recovery circles and the more meetings you do find it is best to discuss these things first before you do that. But I've seen it happen all the time. They want people to say, oh, well, that's a good idea, and then they can crack on. But if you do say you ought to defer that decision for some time, then it starts to get a little bit twitchy. But it's only coming from a place of advice, of experience.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen a long time. Over the long time I've been there, I've seen it happen so many times. It can't be a coincidence that it trips people up.
So that's another suggestion that we've got, isn't it, for people? If you're thinking of making any of these changes that we're talking about and you are early in your recovery, go and talk to someone about it. Even if you're not in peer support.
Yeah.
Probably ought to be. But if you're not, talk to someone you trust and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you reckon?
And talk to someone that's had experience in that area of dealing with people that have addiction issues, because it's different from out in or dealing with someone that doesn't have those issues.
Yeah, ring Martin directly. I'll put his phone number. I'll put his phone number on the episode.
Yeah, thank you for that.
He's available 24/7.
Mostly at night, yeah, but during the night, yeah, disrupt my sleep. Also, returning to education. This is quite an interesting one.
Okay.
Because again, we've seen people want to rush off. You tend to find early on people say, I'm really feeling this. I want to go and be an addiction counsellor or therapist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then suddenly realise that there's no easy route through on that. It's an awful lot of work. And again, it can dent your confidence when you suddenly find that this is a road that's going to take you many years to get to grips with.
It reminds me of something somebody said to me once. I can't remember where I heard it or whether it was said to me or whether I read it. I can't remember. But anyway, it was that people who do therapeutic work, like I do, and like addiction counselling would be, tend to come from some sort of emotional disturbance themselves. They tend to have some of that in their history, and then they kind of split into two camps. There are those that are willing to deal with the stuff that they've been through, and they can become quite useful therapists. And there are those that haven't dealt with the stuff they went through, and they're dangerous therapists.
Oh, okay.
Because what they end up doing is they end up dealing with their own stuff through other people.
Right.
And so one of the really terrible things about that idea, someone being early in recovery and thinking, right, I'll go and train as an addiction counsellor, is you haven't dealt with your stuff yet. If you're 6 months into recovery, you know nothing really about recovery, do you? I mean, you think about how much you've learned in over a decade.
Yeah.
You've got to have done much more work on yourself before you be able to to be of, meaningful help to other people.
I agree. I agree. I'm all in favour of learning about. I encourage people to learn about addiction because I think it's great. It's certainly.
That's part of your work on yourself, isn't it?
No, it is absolutely right. Yeah, you can start to get an understanding of it. But certainly not to throw that into a new career at this point. Find further on down the line, I've seen a lot of people have gone and worked for the local recovery hub very successfully. But don't do it too early on. It's just crazy. We're trying to run before we can walk, and it's all part of that frustration. As addicts, we want quick answers. We wanted quick hits, which is why we drifted onto the harder drink and the harder drugs, because we want it and we want it now. And it's trying to rein that back in, put a brake on it, which is I've seen so many people upset their recovery by not applying these things at the correct pace.
It must come from a good place, though, because I suppose, there must be quite a strong urge in a lot of people to think, right, now I've seen the light, I want to help other people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Totally understandable. But I think you've got to appreciate that you need to understand more about yourself before you can, try and help other people haul themselves out of the holes. You
do. You see it almost as a calling. You feel like that it's that strong. And so I can understand it because I had that same feeling. And obviously I put it into setting up the Aspire to Be charity and getting the peer support group sorted out. To me, that was great. But it was, I was a long way down the line before I did that.
But you've also,
about a year,
without going into specifics, I know there have also been times where you've kind of questioned when there have been challenges that have come up in running groups. Yeah. There have been times where we've had conversations about, whether you should kind of carry on doing it because it's kind of challenging your own sobriety. Yeah. So that's the other thing. You have to maintain a focus and a consciousness about what it's costing you at every step.
Yes.
Because however far you are in sobriety or however long you've been a therapist, there will inevitably be situations that test you and you think, crikey, I don't know how to deal with this, or this is really weighing me down and this is burdening me. And whilst I might not go straight to the off license, buy a litre of vodka, if you're in recovery, you might.
Oh, that's right. It is stressful. Running groups is not. It's you're dealing with a lot of very.
You're dealing with addicts.
You're dealing with addicts. People have suffered great traumas and are irrational. And it always surprises me, and we say this often in groups, that it doesn't kick off more than it does. There's often this calm and serenity about meetings and a real joy about them. It's only very rarely something goes wrong, but they are challenging.
I think part of that, and of course they're impatient as well, aren't they, addicts?
Yes.
But part of the reason I think there is that serenity in groups is because they're boundaried. And so when you go and we've got this amount of time and you're very clear about that and what is, what the process is, I think it's easier then for people to kind of feel safe and comfortable and relaxed in that environment.
You're right. So I was just looking out the window. Someone just fell off their bike. They're up again now. That's all right.
Oh, come on, give us some more details.
No, just come there. I've got a bit of a grassy slope just runs down towards the front door of the apartments here. And he came down there and slid onto the concrete. And he's just got up and he's gone away. He's fine now. So I was just taken. My eye was taken because I lost. It was like suddenly a TikTok video come up in the corner of the screen with someone falling over. But I saw him in time.
Has he muddied his clothes?
He's gone now. Yeah, he's brushed himself down, bless him. He's only a youngster, he'll be fine.
If he's a youngster, it's not quite so funny. It's usually funny when it's an older person, isn't it?
Well,
not elderly, obviously, because we don't want people breaking hips.
No, take them longer to get. Anyway, back to this little list. That's pretty much, the education one was one of the last ones, really, but it was just a thing I threw in myself, really, which I've seen people not necessarily lead them back to relapse, but big regrets. And that's getting tattoos. Honestly, obviously, a lot of people think, right, this is great. I'm going to go and get a tattoo about my sobriety.
Right.
And then they get ones that they think later on down the line, I don't know, I'm sort of advertising this now. And
what sort of thing do they get?
Well, they'll have serenity written on themselves, or they'll have, they'll have some sort of symbol put on that represents it, or indeed have quite and quite significant tattoos as well, sometimes quite big ones.
What, like a sort of massive pint of lager with a real cross through it?
I've never seen that, but I've seen the Serenity Prayer on someone's back, which was quite
wow.
large. Yeah. Okay. And
what's the point of that? You wouldn't even be able to see it.
No, you wouldn't. No, and I mean, having tattoos on your back always seems a little bit weird. I don't think you look in the mirror, but you'd have to use like a writing they use on the front of ambulances, wouldn't you? So have it done backwards, so when you look in the mirror, you can read it.
You'd be better off just keeping it on a piece of paper and sticking it on the fridge, wouldn't you?
I know, yeah, it's strange, but and again, we know that having tattoos can be quite addictive as well. I've seen people get absolutely smothered in them. Yeah. But yeah, don't do that just initially. You take some time, because again, you're not thinking straight. You may get the wrong one. Do it later on.
I suppose people, I don't know, I don't really know the psychological reasons why people would do that, but I suppose there must be something when you go into recovery that feels really sort of almost visceral about the importance of having made this decision for yourself. And that might be kind of one of the reasons why you want to be physically marked by it. But as you say, you've got a long time to repent, haven't you? You've made a mistake.
Yeah. So don't do it. But people still will. Whatever I say here, I know in groups we give advice out, people still go against it. But it builds up my knowledge, really.
Did you ever consider having a tattoo when you went into recovery?
Did you? Yeah, I did.
What were you going to have?
I was just going to have my children's names tattooed on me.
Well, yeah.
And I might still do. I've not had a tattoo. I'm over
I've
60.
not had a tattoo.
I'm over 60 now. I think I should perhaps treat myself to one.
I think we agreed once, didn't we? And this is a rare mention of football. I think we agreed once that we would get a tattoo of little hammers.
Yes.
If West Ham ever won anything again. Yeah. But we're pretty safe, aren't we?
I think we knew when we made that pact we were never going to have to go under the needle. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Well, they did win the Intertoto Cup at one time, but I don't think that really counted. I don't think
we counted that, did we? We didn't count that. Yeah. Okay, good.
Anyway, so that's it, really.
Lovely.
I thought that was a useful exercise to go through. And it's a little bit different from when looking at how to deal with changes, because I started looking at dealing with change, and it's quite vast, and it wasn't particularly recovery related. And I wanted to focus this down a little bit.
I think that's a much better. I was hoping you might sing a couple of verses of Changes by Black Sabbath.
I do like that track, actually.
Yeah. It's kind of a departure from their normal style.
It is. Yeah, I might put that on the Spotify list.
It's as near as they get to a ballad.
It is really, yeah. You're right.
Anyway, there we are.
Anyway, there were other bits I wanted to go into, but I don't think I will. I'm going to go on to the gratitude list, if that's all right with you.
That's fine with me.
And I'll go first because it leads on slightly from what you're talking about. We don't talk about football.
Okay.
But I was grateful yesterday when I went to watch Maidstone play that I had my thermals on.
Yeah, cold, wasn't it? No,
I may have mentioned thermals before. I can't remember. But I remember thinking yesterday, I'm glad because it was bitterly cold out there. And having my thermal long johns on was wicked.
I think I've mentioned thermals before. I don't know if you have.
I don't know. I'm a recent convert to them, really.
Can't beat a thermal.
No, I haven't had them very long. But they're good. I've got to say that they sorted me out, especially at the football. I should be using them more at cold winter games in the future.
If you're hip, you call them a base layer.
Oh, do you? All right, okay.
Yeah. So I prefer it if you referred to them as base layers before.
I want to be hip
in the future
and trendy, so I'm bang on with that, yeah.
I expect you needed them yesterday because not only was it freezing cold, but I believe I'm right in saying that Mason lost on penalties.
They did, and I was talking to the guys I was with. It's the first time I've seen it happen on TV so often, but I've never been to a live game with it and watched penalties.
Really? No. That's interesting. I have. Yeah, I can remember. Oh, this is quite a lot of football talk, isn't it, for one
it is, yeah.
episode. I can remember West Ham playing Arsenal in what must have been the quarter-final of the FA Cup. And they were, I think, either 2-1 down or 3-2 down, and West Ham equalised just as I was on my way out of the ground.
Oh, really?
And all the stewards were saying, we've equalised, and everyone rushed back in. And it went to penalties, and Samasi Abu missed a penalty and we went out.
I watched that on TV. I remember the game you're talking about, yeah.
And,
I watched that up the Swan on the TV, so I was probably swiveling about by that time.
Well, you went up the Swan because you would have said to your wife, I'm just going to the cash point.
That's it. Yeah, and then stayed up there and watched the football go to the pub.
And I can remember as vividly, because this is a long time ago now. I mean, this must be, 25 years ago? Probably longer than that. But I can remember that immediately on the tannoy, the music they played was Everybody Hurts by R.E.M.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, what was the point of that? That's not helping, is it?
It's not helping, but
we should have had Happy Talk by Captain Sensible. Or
it's reflecting the mood of those people trudging.
It certainly was. There was a lot of effing and blinding, I can tell you.
I was just amazed at seeing this live for the first time, how the atmosphere was electric, and then it was absolutely turned off in an instant when the first penalty hit the bar.
Yeah,
and it was this high. The emotional roller coaster was the highs were much higher and the lows were much lower.
Yeah,
than a normal goal going in. It was incredible. And that's why losing was a shame.
That's why I've given up football.
It was great. I mean, I've never been to a match also where they went straight to penalties, no extra time, which was a bit weird.
Yeah. Did you have a bother at half time?
No, I had a cup of tea. Anyway, enough football talk. You might have to cut that out, mightn't you?
Might do.
So anyway, mine was thermals.
Thermals. Right. Mine, I'm gratitude this week for myself.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we talked about connecting with yourself last week and how I found that difficult concept initially, but now I understand it. So,
well, I was thinking about this episode. I knew you wanted to talk about changes, and I was actually thinking about sort of what it would be like. Obviously, I don't know what it would be like to going into sobriety after years of addiction, and I thought about all the kind of challenges that I've faced in my life, and I thought, yeah, the one constant is I've got myself through them. You know, I might have had support, I might have had help, and I certainly have, and I'm very grateful for all my friends and my family and everything else. But ultimately, you can only kind of get yourself wherever you get to in life through your own endeavours. And I think, you know, sometimes it's easy for us to overlook the role that we play in keeping ourselves upright and balanced. And so I thought I'd just tip my cap this morning to me.
Oh, absolutely right. No, I think that's the right thing to do. However, that you may. No, I think that's good. I think that's a good thing to do because, it's something that comes up in groups a lot where they've done a few months perhaps and they say, it's all down to you guys, this or the groups. And I always say, no, it's down to you.
Absolutely right.
We're like the supporting cast. We're like the extras in your film. You've done all the hard work and never underestimate that.
You're man with a newspaper, aren't you?
Yes, you are. It's what, wandering by.
I'm flower seller. Yeah, because my clients say that to me. Sometimes it's lovely when you finish with someone and they say, oh, I'm so grateful for your help and, you know, I couldn't have done it without you. And I think it's really important to give people back that power. You know, this wasn't me. This was you. It reminds me of something another therapist said. I might have said this before. When I was on a training course and one of the participants, who's also a therapist, said to the tutor, yeah, change is hard, isn't it? And the tutor said, yeah, change is hard, but remember, you don't have to do it. And I thought, yeah, that's absolutely spot on. And it's really important to remember if you go into sobriety, because remember, you made that choice. You didn't have to choose to stop drinking. Yeah. You didn't have to make that courageous choice to stop drinking, go through all the difficulty that it entails to find yourself somewhere better. So I think it's important that you show yourself the gratitude that you deserve.
Good. Well, that's a good choice you've made there this week. And I'm going to go on to daysoftheyear.com then after that. How about that?
Yeah.
There's just a couple that I want to mention. The first one was Check Your Batteries Day. It is today, okay?
All batteries?
Well, particularly looking at smoke alarms and that sort of the smoke detectors, that sort of thing. So check them, make sure they're all up to speed, but also that you've got a supply.
Okay, well, I've got a difficulty there right off the bat.
Okay.
Because both of my smoke detectors, the batteries are not changeable. You just have to change the smoke detector after a decade.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, check.
So how do you like them onions?
Check your check the batteries in your PlayStation controllers.
Okay, I haven't used my PlayStation for a long time. I'll tell you what batteries I think do need checking.
What's that?
Clock batteries, because it's bloody annoying when your clocks stop.
Yes.
And the other battery that I think needs checking is the battery in my little automatic whisk that I whisk up my milk for when I make coffee.
But also, checking them is fine. But I also find that it's always, because I keep a supply, I'm sure most people do, ready for that situation. The last thing you want to do is to find you need a battery for your handheld whisk and you don't have any.
No, I have got some spare ones of those. I'll tell you what I didn't have spare batteries for that went recently, and that was the battery in the key for my car.
Oh,
so the doors wouldn't open and the car wouldn't start.
You can't do it manually?
No, you can't start the car manually.
Can't you?
No, you have to. It's like a push button, and if you can't detect the key, you can't start the bloody car.
Oh, that's the problem, isn't it? With these
newfangled
with the technology that surrounds car security. Yeah,
it was much better when you just had to go to the front and turn a handle on your car. And
you knew where you were there, didn't you?
It
I remember my dad having one exactly like that.
Did he?
Yeah, you could move cars about with that because you could turn the engine over, which would turn the wheel. If you left it in gear, you could winch your car along the road, basically. So you could move it in and out of car parking spaces just by your front handle, your crank handle. You can't do that anymore, can you? The second one was it's National Baked, and I don't know how you would pronounce this, scallops or scallops?
Scallops, yeah.
As you say scallops.
Oh, scallops. Right. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a bit like scone and scone, really.
It is, but
scallops.
It's spelled with an A, aren't they? So like scallops.
Scallops.
But I think most people say scallops. Yeah. But unfortunately, which is it says that you're supposed to have some of those today, or make sure that you're going to remember to at some point that baked scallops is the right.
I think you can't make them, can you?
You can't make them, but you can cook them. Yeah.
I think that's poorly thought out, because I'd say Sunday and Monday are bad days to have any sort of seafood, because the boats won't have been out on a Sunday, will they?
True.
And quite often that's one of the reasons why fish shops and fish and chip shops used to be closed on a Monday, because you couldn't get fresh fish. True, I know everything's frozen now, but if I'm going to celebrate National Scallop Day, I want bloody fresh ones straight off the boat.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm going to do it Tuesday. Thank you very much.
I remember my younger brother used to laugh when people used to say scallops, because it reminded us of the language. Remember, we used to have, myself and my brother used to have this language of backwards talk.
Yeah.
And scallops is very much like scolobs, which was bollocks backwards. And so we always used to laugh if people used to say that. Yeah. It just reminded me when I was writing it down and saying it to myself, oh, yeah, I remember that. There's a little bit of mirth back in the day.
How do you feel about scallops? Do you like them?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's made me want scallops now.
Well, that's what the National Day is all about.
I think I say scallops because that seems to be what naturally comes out of my mouth.
Off your tongue, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. Okay, on this day in music, they're all Beatles ones, actually, these ones, which I know you're not a big fan, but...
Well, of course I am. I like the Beatles.
You do. The first one was John, again, probably significant to our podcast, that John Lennon got drunk at the Troubadour Club back in 1974, on this day, 1974.
Right.
He got drunk there and started shouting insults at the band. They were called the Smothers Brothers, which I like the name. That I don't know any of their work. He was shouting insults, and then he went up and punched their manager before being ejected. See, that's the devil drink, the evils of drink that's taken down that road. Yeah, and Lennon, he liked a bit of peace and love, really, didn't he? So he got pissed.
Yeah, that's not very give peace a chance, is it?
No, it isn't. No.
He was giving getting pissed a chance, wasn't he?
He did give their manager a chance to get out of the way before he sloshed him. And also on this day in 1969, Macca, he married to Linda Eastman. So that's a significant one. And George Harrison was nicked for possessing 120 marijuana joints. Now, that's a bit weird. So on the same day that Macca's getting married to Eastman, perhaps Harrison didn't like it. Thought, you know what? But to have 100...
Well, either that, he was off to the reception.
He was off to getting ready.
He's going to, give everyone instead of the complimentary glass of wine,
give a spliff.
Have a toke on this.
120. I imagine they would have taken him. Perhaps he had people to help him roll that.
Oh, he would have done. I mean, if you're in the Beatles, you've got someone to roll your joint, surely.
Of course you have. Yeah, especially 120. That's serious, and you're effectively a dealer at that point, aren't you?
You are. And you're also that's quite a lot of Rizzler packets, isn't it? to be finding to tear up.
Yeah, but Harrison was nicked. Yeah, for that.
Understandably. Do you think McCartney and his new wife, do you think they had vegetarian sausages as part of the wedding breakfast?
Did you? I don't know. Perhaps was he vegetarian before?
I don't know.
He met
they
Linda?
turned vegetarian after that. I'm just wondering if they had vegetarian sausages and she thought, hey, I could make some of these. I could sort this out.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
I can make myself a nice little business when I'm finished up with wings.
Yeah. Hopefully he wasn't in early recovery and thinking about starting a new business, because that would have been right, wouldn't it?
I was surprised you didn't make vegetarian wings. That would have been more sensible, wouldn't it?
Ideal, yeah. But that's about me there, mate.
Good, because we've gone on quite a long time this morning.
Yeah, that's why I sort of cut it down a bit as well.
Yeah, good, because otherwise it would get boring.
Very boring. Okay,
all right,
mate.
I'll see you next time then.
Cheers, mate.
Laters.
Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.